Hello, I'm Michelle.
And I'm Laura, and this is the Parentrepreneur Club podcast, a fortnightly show to help you navigate the demands of being both a parent and a business owner. We will share lots of practical ideas, hints and tips, and our own and others' experiences of juggling work, family, health and finances. Above all, we want to help you find your purpose, define your identity, and banish any confidence gremlins that might be holding you back from the life you dream of. No matter whether you have children or not, there will be something here for you. Let's get started.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Parentrepreneurs Club podcast. I'm Michelle, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Laura. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the world of goal setting for parentrepreneurs, those amazing individuals that we support who are balancing parenthood and entrepreneurship. So setting goals and achieving goals is a real game changer for parentrepreneurs and helping you navigate those unique challenges that you face in the world of parenthood and family life. So Laura, obviously you've run your own business now for a few years. How do you set your own goals for your business?
Yeah, this is a real critical topic, I think, for me, Michelle. And, we talk about this a lot and with our clients. For me, the visualization of goals has been really, really important. And certainly, over the summer holidays, I experienced this because when I first set up my business, my unique goal was always to take my son and, our family to go to Disneyland. So having just come back from that yesterday, still feeling a little bit under the weather from that as well, because it was a full-on holiday. But it was one of the things that I actually did a timeline exercise for, and that's something that we use as one of our coaching tools. But to go through that process of my end goal of wanting to experience what it would be like to be in Disneyland and feel how what would I see, what would I hear, what would I feel at that time, to know that when that came true I would be able to actually have experienced it as a visualization. And this is something that I try and get my clients to understand, because if you can't see, hear and feel what success feels like, how will you know when you've achieved it?
Absolutely. And it's so important, isn't it, to really clarify and define those goals. I think sometimes when we're going solo, particularly if we've been corporate, it can be a little bit subjective, and we can move those goals and we're only accountable to ourselves. So we can say we're going to do something, and then when we start to fail, we can move that goalpost. And I know I did that. I certainly did that in my first year. And I know we've got very collective aligned goals for the Parentrepreneurs Club, and it certainly helps. And you've been an inspiration for what you've done for France and getting the family over to Paris. I think it's so good to have that, as you say, aligned goal that you can see, feel, know what it's going to be like, and then work backwards from that. For me, that roadmap piece is incredibly important, to really understand what each effort's going to look like and how that success is going to look and feel. It's not necessarily just a financial goal that a lot of us kind of get hung up on when we set businesses up. Going to the bank manager, where are you going to be, how are you going to achieve it? We generally start to look at the commercials, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about how in the corporate setting, we have those kind of measures in place. So we have appraisals, we have a line manager that's kind of looking at our expectations, our goals, setting whether we're achieving that, and a performance management process. But as individuals and entrepreneurs, it's very easy to get distracted by the next big thing, the bright, shiny object syndrome. And we see this a lot in the clients that we coach as well, is that all of a sudden they go off on a tangent because they've seen something that actually looks really good and exciting, and they've forgotten what the basis of the business was. And this is something that, what I use with my clients is to how do you balance that between setting up, having the freedom to do what you want, but actually still getting those solid foundations of what it is that you're trying to achieve at the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great to have that entrepreneurial spirit, isn't it? And see those opportunities that arrive. And I think, most entrepreneurs do that, and we're guilty of that. Oh, there's a new shiny thing and it can make us lots of money, or it could give us the financial freedom so we can retire at the goal that we set. And certainly, we, for us as coaches, it's to realign that, isn't it? And bring that back to, yes, you've got specific and measurable goals, and they're very clear to see and very transparent. But for us to kind of politely challenge, are they actually realistic? Are you going to tick all those boxes? If you're here financially, what else is going to give from those other drivers and motivators that you might have? And is it actually achievable? Because again, we want this kind of fear of failure. Sometimes we set these bigger goals because we want everybody to feel that we've succeeded. I know this time last year, I went to a school reunion, and I think that's a lot of that kind of bravado of where am I? What have I accomplished? And we kind of have it in our DNA a little bit, don't we? That sort of survival mode that we want to achieve things and aspire. And particularly as entrepreneurs, we want to be successful at what we do. But I think we have to be adaptive, and we have to appreciate that sometimes as entrepreneurs, with that balance, there might be an element of failure, and that's fine. But it's for us to check in on how that's happening, how that individual's managing it. And initially, are those goals realistic and are they achievable? And I think that's something we talk about a lot with people, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think it's that, it always comes back to me with the Colonel Sanders consistency, of actually what is failure? Yeah. Because so long as you've learned a lesson from that and you don't repeat the same mistake again, then it's a good thing.
Absolutely.
And when we talk about judgment and how what we do is we compare ourselves to other people all the time, and we judge ourselves based on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that coaching piece for me is really about getting to the crux of what is it, that you are trying to achieve. Is that genuinely your kind of thought process or your own values, or is it someone else's?
Absolutely. And I think we do that as an element of conformity, isn't there? And whether it's either something you've put on yourself, or whether it's a social conformity you've had, or family pressures that you've had, it might be that you've aspired very much to have goals, life goals, such as being mortgage free by a certain age. And that obviously does put that pressure, and it does kind of prohibit that fear of failure. But it's not the right thing, is it? Sometimes we take it back to what those drivers and motivators really are, and that alignment back to those goals. And I know we've talked about it a lot. One of my big bucket tickets, my big driver on the table, is that freedom, that flexibility. And I check in with that a lot, and I know we do that with our coaches. But I could easily convince myself some weeks, oh yeah, I've done that, massively feeling that I'm free and flexed. But it's maybe not quite where I needed to be that week. And as long as we're doing that, and we're doing that self-assessment, and sometimes that's where people get the benefit of that coaching, isn't it? We do it with each other. We've got the luxury of that as business partners as well as being coaches. But yeah, certainly to keep you on that right path and that right direction. And we've also experienced, and I know we've had conversations recently, Laura, where people move those goals quite significantly, for one thing or another. And again, for us to kind of assess, are they moving it for the right reasons? What's driving that change?
Yeah. And particularly over the summer, summer holidays, I certainly have experienced fatigue and the kind of mental stress of balancing everything. And as much as we want to say we can coach ourselves or we can get through it, we know the techniques, we should be able to do this. We tell ourselves I should a lot. It's about being able to structure the time to say I need some thinking space. And that for me, when I have my coaching session, with my coach, is to say, actually, what is it that I'm trying to do, or what is it that I'm trying to look at, and unpick that. So whether that's with you and I having a coaching conversation, of what is it that I'm trying to achieve, it's only then that my actual thoughts start to come out a bit more, because you've got that structured 60, 90 minutes, whatever it is, to sit down and reflect on what's happened, how is that aligned, because otherwise it's all just a jumble in our heads, I think.
Yeah, I'm completely with you on that. I think that summer piece, you can't always unpick it, and you don't have that time to do that. And I've certainly felt, well, today, as we go back into the school term and the kids are back and I'm back at it, there's that short, sharp focus, and it feels very goal orientated again, very back onto where we are, where we need to be, what we as a team want to be doing for the business, and what we want to be doing for our clients. But I think equally, we're balanced with that. It's around, understanding what those things are we've got to overcome. So we are only human. There's only so many hours in a day without us compromising that flexibility that we want. We've only got so many resources to do what we need to do, and not an indefinite amount of money to do that as well. These are all things that are going to prohibit us and our coachees against achieving those goals. And I think the biggest one that we come across time and time again, without sounding like a broken record, it is that imposter syndrome and that self-doubt, isn't it? We hear from clients why those goals aren't necessarily being achieved because we start second guessing.
100%. And it is easy to go into that sort of negative slide. And I think particularly when you don't have that accountability, you can quite easily stack things in the wrong direction. So one thing starts to go wrong, and then something else, and then something else, and all of a sudden, I can't do this. I'm going to fail. And we set up that mindset of this failure is inevitable.
Absolutely.
So that's really where the benefits of coaching is, to unpick that and say, okay, well, that's just one instance. So rather than making this into a big event that's happened over and over again, let's try the success stacking of what's gone right. And that's been so valuable for me. And and I see that through my clients as well. And to kind of add to that is the other challenge I find with clients is they'll say, I'm too busy for my coaching session. I haven't got time for it this week. And it's when you hear that the alarm bells start to go, because that's when they need it the most.
Exactly. And that's what I was going to say, that change in priorities, that's really important sometimes, isn't it? We see that with coachees where they're not necessarily changing the goals, but the priorities have shifted. So either they've had another child or the family life's been stretched. And we're finding it this week, aren't we? There's people who've got children now both at school or all at school, or they are literally going to secondary school. So their priorities have changed again. And it's no different than when they tap out of our coaching sessions, than reprioritizing what their agenda is going to be. So I think, that change in priorities, I think we sometimes forget. And what is the top priority? What's the most important? What's aligned to the goal? I think that's hugely, hugely important to remember. I think it's that lack of consistency with that sometimes catches people out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what would you kind of go through with your clients? What are the key challenges that they tend to come to you with in terms of productivity, or what would your suggestions be in that moment of how to challenge that?
Yeah, I think that the main theme with the parentrepreneur, the working parent, is very much that time piece, that conflict of, am I doing too much in my business or too little? And I think we've all seen and felt that over the 6 weeks holidays. Are we doing too much parenting, or are we getting the guilt trip that we're doing too much in the business? And it's probably less of that, the second at the moment, I think, for a large majority, because it's very difficult to balance that the whole 6 weeks. So that pressure, that time piece, balance with that identity thing of who am I and what am I doing, and that gets lost with goal setting. For me, that gets really, really lost. So I always say to clients, like, think about those drivers as buckets on a table. What is the biggest driver? What do you want from this business? Where are you going to go? And that is your business focus, isn't it? That is not your goals. Your goals are either the financial performance, which some people have to have in their head, don't they? And we have passwords, don't we, Laura, that are nice ambitious financial targets where we want to be. It's great to have. It's nice and ambitious. But less than that. It doesn't need to be financial. It can be, I would like 3 paid clients in the next 2 months, and those clients need to be X, Y, and Z, and so they can really focus on that. That is different to the drivers and motivators stuff. But when the conflict happens, it's when there's an overlap there, or there's a conflict. So the driver bucket isn't meeting or satisfying the goals, or the goals aren't ticking those drivers and motivators. And I think that's the thing where the magic happens with coaching. And we can bring them up from that and lift that fog and say, this is where there's this mismatch. And like you did with Disney at the start, actually, what is that goal? What does that look like? What do you see? What's it going to feel like when you achieve that goal?
Yeah.
The drivers and the motivators are the stuff that you want now, the quick. I do not want to be working at my desk at 8 o'clock at night. I want time with my family. I want to be this role model. The difference is very clear in my head, but we forget that, and it gets blurred so much because it is that identity piece, and it's 9 times out of 10 it's the time, isn't it? The time management piece.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, to touch on this, when we did a little bit in the drama triangle before as well, is there's a lot of advice monsters out there. So, like we can say, oh, well, like we were talking about, how we can maybe mentor someone, or, I mean, the passwords is a great thing for us. We've both used that because it's a constant reminder of when you set something as your password, you've got to enter that several times. So it triggers the brain to say, actually, this is what I'm focused on. But kind of around that is what we don't do is the coaching part of why are we achieving that. So just to use an example we were talking about earlier, like if someone's saying that they're wanting to go to Disneyland, in my case, or you want to lose weight, why are you wanting to do that? So the Disneyland for me was time with my family. So I was really, really strict on, I don't want to take my laptop. I don't want to, work during that time, because I do on other holidays. But that was really clear on, I want to enjoy my son while he's 7. This is a magical time. This is something that we won't forget. We've got lots and lots of memories of it, the photos, everything else. So that was what it's for. If your goal is to lose weight, for example, but you're not really that committed to it, and you haven't visualized what it will feel like, what that will do for you, it's not going to happen.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. And I think I said to you this morning, I've just read the Stephen Bartlett book, and he talks a lot about goal setting, and particularly like gamification, and his view of gamification is setting for gym goals. And when you read it, you kind of think, really, would you do that? Would you be so cutthroat to drop people out of the WhatsApp group if they don't attend the group the gym session? Yeah, and I reflected on that last night, and I was like, we do, in a way, that's what we're encouraging our coaches to do. You have to set the goal and completely make it tangible. What does it feel like? Why do you want to do it? And that why is the driver's motivation. What's behind it? What's sitting at the base of that? Why do we want to do that? I was thinking, sitting at the dinner table with your 5-year-old or your 7-year-old or whatever, what is it that you want to tell them? What are you aiming for with your business? When mummy or daddy are upstairs working, what are you doing and why? And it's breaking it as simple as that, so they understand it. And if you can articulate that to them, then and keep that at the forefront, then it's clear, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's it. It's got to be that fundamental driver of what personal growth is it giving me, and what's it giving to my family, or to the wider whatever driver it is that you've got.
Yeah, I mean, we've certainly come across individuals who manifest, or they have mood boards, and that very visual, this is where I want to be and this is what I want to do. And yeah, I think still there's that element where there's that disconnect in those drivers and motivators. So there's this very clear, tangible goals, but they're forgetting why they're doing it. And that is the absolute crunch, isn't it? Why do they want to be in that place? Why do they want to be living in Dubai, driving the car and feeling the sun on their back every day? There's something that's made them want to do that. And that's what helps get to that goal, if you remember what those drivers and motivators are. And a lot of conversations I have with clients is sometimes that those buckets change and they move around, don't they? So those drivers and motivators do shift, depending on where you are and where your relationship might be, where family life might be, location where you live in at the time. It does change, and I think sometimes people forget that as well, forget to take stock of that, and that has an impact on that feeling when we don't achieve those goals as well, that failure piece.
Yeah, definitely. And I think exactly as you said it, our ambitions evolve over time.
Yeah.
So what we might say we want in 3 years or 5 years time might actually change in 3 years or 5 years time. So it's about continually reevaluating those goals, and not basing it on past experience. So I think what we tend to do is say, oh well, 10 years ago I had this goal and it didn't happen, or I can probably achieve this because this is what has happened before. Whereas we don't set the big goals and actually, do you know what, it's like when my son was born, I had this poster of like a picture on a wall that said "Dream big,"
Yeah.
and it is exactly that, because as cheesy as it sounds, you're only limited by your own mind.
Absolutely. And I've said that to a few people before in coaching conversations. Get a piece of paper and just write down what your goals were when you're 16, what were your goals when you're 18, and or even just do 5-year milestones. At 16, I had a picture of a BMW Z1 in my bedroom. That's what I wanted. I cut it out the Daily Mail and I said to my dad, I'm going to have that car.
Yeah.
And then by the time I got to my 20s, it was a job title that I aspired to have with a salary. And now it's family peace. It's the flexibility. I want a job that leaves a legacy for my children, and I want flexibility to see my children, like the Disney trips, and make memories. So 100% they move, don't they? And that piece around that, reminding ourselves that we've had different goals and we haven't failed at anything we've done. We might have hit them, but actually the drivers' motivations that sit behind it have changed, and our landscape's changed. So we have to keep reminding ourselves of that. It's definitely something that people grapple with as parentrepreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully, if listeners resonate with this, we'd love to hear some feedback as well on whether you've had your own goals you achieved, or whether you feel that, you've visualized something in the future, and how are you working towards that. So if someone came to you, as a coaching session and said, well, I've visualized this goal, what then can we put in place to work backwards from that, I guess?
So for me, it's for them to describe what that is, for me to really understand as a coach, when we say this is what I want, what actually does it look and feel like, and what's motivating that, what's in the background, why do you want that, and what's actually driving that behavior. So once we understand that and we've had that conversation, and sometimes that's a whole session, isn't it? That's quite a lot of meat on the bones to get to. What's within their parameters. So it's basically doing a bit of a SMART assessment with them. So what they have set, is it really, really specific, or are they too specific in what they want? Is it measurable? Do we understand when they get from A to B what that looks like? And again, that's what does it look and feel like? And is it achievable? For me to hold them to account and say, realistically, in 2 years, without sounding cynical, are you going to get that goal that you want? Or actually, is it the opposite? Is it more than realistic, and they're actually being slightly modest, and maybe they need a bit more stretched? So initially working through that piece, and then getting into some of the grassroots as a parentrepreneur, understanding what those challenges might be at the moment, the things that might stop them doing it. So we've talked already, haven't we, about time, resources, this lack of confidence they might already have, and working through those ones that might be prohibiting them in achieving those goals, and then coming up with a bit of an action plan. So there's generally 3 or 4. There's probably no more than that. I mean, occasionally you might get one person who's got a lot of very ambitious goals and a big kind of piece that they need to overcome. But generally, most clients will have 2 or 3 pieces that we can break down. But for us as your coach, we really do need to understand what the motivators are behind that goal, what it looks and feels like. So again, we can hold you to account to that. So you can't just move those goalposts, because we do it. We all do it ourselves. Oh, did I say 15k? Oh, I thought I said 50. No, I said 15. No, I definitely said 15. Or did I say 3 clients? No, I think I definitely said 2. It doesn't matter. No one's judging you, and it really doesn't matter if you fail. It's about actually to get you on that trajectory and to get you into that mindset. It's having that person to go along that journey with, and to support you in how you can overcome those challenges. So yeah, that's what I would do and how I would break it down with my clients.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I do as well, and it is that sometimes I find clients have a really specific goal, and it might be, I want to achieve X figure in my business next year. Yeah. But actually, when you start to go, okay, so right, what does that look like? How will you know when you've achieved it, and what else do you have to sacrifice? Yeah. And then they start to look at other things, that the barriers to that, the flexibility. And all of a sudden, the goals shifted, because to achieve that goal is actually a bigger time commitment than they wanted, or they're going to have to invest in significant financial money to market that business. So it shifts, and I think that is the problem when we set these ambitious goals, but we don't realistically step into that and go, okay, so what does that involve?
Exactly. Yeah, that is the big disconnect, isn't it? And particularly we might, and this is why we kind of set the parentrepreneur piece up, because it's very different as an entrepreneur with a family and the parent alignment. And don't get me wrong, we'll get people who will come into our mix and kind of resonate with what we say, but actually their main priority is the business. They don't want the balance, and that's probably not where they sit as what we would call the parentrepreneur. But those people like ourselves that we resonate with, the like-minded individuals who are trying to run the business and get this balance with the family piece, are those individuals that really, that's that sweet spot, isn't it, for us, around having those conversations. We've been there, we've got the t-shirt, we understand it. Actually, we can apply our coaching knowledge and foundation to that, because we kind of felt that pain ourselves and we understand it.
Yeah.
But equally, we can give you some tools and techniques to overcome those, and hopefully see a prosperous and growing businesses, which is what we love to see, don't we, with our clients?
Absolutely. And I suppose a key takeaway from this episode, for me to give to the listeners is, for me specifically, the jotting down the terms of what, we did this in Parentrepreneurs Club when we set up as well, is what do we want to achieve? Actually, how many days a week do I want to work? What am I prepared to sacrifice? Those kind of real fundamentals, and having a vision board.
Yeah.
So the little pictures of the car you want to drive, or the holidays you want to have in 5 or 10 years time, to whether you do it on Pinterest or a physical cut pieces out of newspapers, magazines, have it on a board. That really, really helps me when I am having a moment of doubt, to just look at those and say, okay, let me realign. Is this what I'm doing right now? Is it aligned with what I want to achieve?
So thanks for joining today's episode. Hopefully that's given you some food for thought. If you would like to discuss your goals for your business with us, please get in touch to book a free discovery call. In the meantime, keep smashing those goals. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. We rely heavily on word of mouth, so if you found value in this episode, please hit subscribe and share it with family and friends. If you'd like to find out a bit more about us, you can find us on our Facebook group, Parentrepreneurs Club, or alternatively on Instagram, parentrepreneurs_club. We hope you have a great week, and we look forward to talking to you next time.